Now, case 4. Case 4 is a little bit complicated, but don't be scared. Let's continue. In this case, you see we have a 3 in front of sine. We have a 2 in front of x. We have a minus pi over 3 is no longer minus pi over 6. Previously was pi over 6. So then, how does this picture look like? Okay. We may again test main points. One point is this one, 0 point. Another is the highest point, and then 0 again, and then lowest point, and then 0 again. We may test all those 5 points. Things in detail you may test yourself. Okay, now, you know, I like to write 2x minus pi over 3 as 2 times parentheses pi x minus pi over 6 in the parentheses. Why we can do that? You see, you do the distributive property. You have a 2x minus 2 times pi over 6. That's 2x minus pi over 3. Because you cancel, 2 is upstairs, 6 is downstairs. So there is a common factor 2 can be cancelled. You get that. 2x minus pi over 3 is exactly this one. So when you pull 2 out, you have that. The reason I'm doing so is that I want to tell you is this graph should be amplitude is 3. You see here, still 3. The period is pi. Again, apply the same formula, but the amount of shifting to the right is no longer pi over 3, is pi over 6. Because here is 2, you pull 2 out, here is pi over 6. And here are the details why, as said. Okay? Look, when x equals pi over 6 minus pi over 6 is 0. And then 2 times 0, you got is 0. So sine 0, 0 is 0, and then you times 3, you got 0. Those are the details. Okay, if x is pi over 6, minus pi over 6, you have a 0. Then 2 times this big quantity, you still have a 0. And sine this big quantity is 0. So 0, 0. But here is x equals pi over 6. Y is 0. So starting point is pi over 6. No longer 0. Okay? For the lowest one. Of course, there are part of things like this. Okay? Yeah, because this is one period. You do like that. When you do shift it to the left of one period, this will be part of that. So it will be somewhere here. But anyway, let's say the graph is shifted pi over 6 to the right. Okay? Let's test this point. This point, when x is 5 pi over 12, 5 pi over 12, then you want to do 5 pi over 12, not 6. Over 12. Minus pi over 6, because here is x minus pi over 6. If x is 5 pi over 12, then minus pi over 6, we are working on this one. What do we get? times 2 on both numerator and denominator. So then you will have a 6, 2 together is 12. So denominators are the same now. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then reduce it. So pi over 4. Okay. So pi over 4 is x minus pi over 6. And then times 2, pi over 2. Sine pi over 2 we know is 1. Okay. So then when x equals 5 pi over 12, you have a sine 2 times quantity x minus pi over 6 is 1. Okay, where is 5 pi over 12? We know 1. Oh, you have to times 3 down here. Okay, so then is 3. So we know if the y-coordinate is 3, this tall, and 5 pi over 12 equals approximately where? You see, 5 pi over 12 is 1.3 something. Huh? Okay. Here is 1, here is 2, here is 1.2, 1.3 is somewhere here. So when x equals 5 pi over 12, you have the highest one is 3, so it reaches the highest one at 5 pi over 12. Okay? So we have tested the highest point. And then you find out down here. Here is 4 pi over 6 for x. And then 4 pi over 6 minus pi over 6 will get a second row. Okay, again there is a 1 in front of it, so it's 3 pi over 6. Cancel factor 3, you have a pi over 2. Okay, and you have to times 2. Okay, so 2 pi is actually here. And then pi over 2 times 2 is pi, and sine pi is 0. Okay, so then you know 4 pi over 6. We know 4 pi over 6 is what? 4 pi over 6 is 2 pi over 3, because you can cancel 2. 2 pi over 3 is right here. Okay, why is that? You can calculate. 2 pi over 3 is 2.0, close to 2.1. 2.1 is right here. Here is 2. Here is 2.2. 2.1 is right here. Okay? So it reaches 0 at 2 pi over 3 or 4 pi over 6 right here. Let's work on that. Okay? Work on that. That will be this point, 11 pi over 12 for x, 11 pi over 12 minus pi over 6, not the same denominator, so multiplied by what? 2. You get denominators are the same. Now denominators are the same. Numerator is 11 minus 2, which is 9. You do common factor 3, so it's 3 pi over 4. So then you get that. 3 pi over 4. Okay? 3 pi over 4 times 2. There is a 2 in front of it. So you have a 3 pi over 2. It was 3 pi over 4. Now 3 pi over 2, sine 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. Times 3, positive, you still get negative. Okay? So, x equals 11 pi over 12, y is negative 3. Okay? Where is 11 pi over 12? Again, calculate. 11 pi over 12 is 2.8 something, close to 2.9, 2.87, 2.9. So you see here 2.2, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.8, 2.9 is right here. That's 11 pi over 12. We have a negative 3 then, right here. Okay. Now, last one. That's x equals 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 minus pi over 6. That's 6 pi over 6. So you get pi here. Times 2. So you have 2 pi. Okay? And you have 2 pi, then sine 2 pi is 0. Times 3, still 0. Okay? So 7 pi over 6. Again, you can calculate. Okay? So 7 pi over 6. And 3.66, so close to 3.7. Okay? 3.2, 3.4, 3.6, close to 3.7. 7 pi over 6, down right here. So the picture goes like this.